Speaker.
Clear, Karen.
Mr. Speaker, this is a very important bill, and it's a very good example of how well parliamentarians can work together and work together swiftly to address a critical issue, which is to protect ordinary people, ordinary investors, mums and dads, from shonky financial advice, shonky and irresponsible financial advice, and provide responsible regulation and restore confidence in the financial sector. I'm very proud of the work that's been done by the Commerce Select Committee and all of the officials involved, and I particularly want to acknowledge up front the work, the incredible amount of work that was done by the members of the committee, particularly the Honourable Leanne Dalzell, the Chair, and the Deputy Chair, Sam Lotoenga, and Katrina Shanks, and my colleague Charles Chevelle for their hard work on this bill. Also, of course, the long-suffering officials, the clerks, the Parliamentary Council, and the work that was done by the Minister to move this ahead. Over the past 4 years, millions of dollars have been lost as the result of about 30 financial company collapses, and interest.co.nz estimates that up to 200,000 depositors have been affected. And while this might include double counting, so some of those people may have invested in more than one company, even if it's 100,000 people, that's an awful lot of people who have been affected. And many of those investors made their decisions based on faulty advice from financial advisors. This bill won't stop all of those obscenities, such as Colin Mead saying safe as houses when clearly Hanover wasn't safe as houses, but it might mean that the type of people who were marketing and promoting Hanover as a safe investment will disappear. And it's the truth in advertising issue that kept coming up over and over again when submitters came to the Select Committee, and we heard that the advertising was clearly opposite to what the reality was, and real financial advisors will then be able to scrutinise investment prospectuses with more rigour and in more detail as is required, as I would have thought, by such a profession. The intent of this bill is to provide for responsible regulation with the financial services sector and robust consumer protection in order to preserve confidence and trust in our financial services sector. And I don't think there'd be anybody in this House or anyone watching who wouldn't agree that that was necessary. And I just want to mention one particular case study where recently jailed Timaru investment advisor Neville Kent was banned from operating as an advisor or investment broker for 5 years. And the ban under the Securities Market Act was the automatic result of Kent's conviction for theft of $100,000 by a person in a special relationship, theft from clients, and 2 charges of forgery. Kent was sentenced on those and Securities Act charges in early June, and he received a 14-month prison sentence on the theft charge and was ordered to pay reparation of $100,000 with a concurrent 10-month sentence on the 2 forgery charges. He was also fined $136,000 on 6 charges laid under the Securities Act in relation to charges of offering and allotting securities to members of the public without a prospectus or an offerer's statement. And Securities Commission spokesman Roger Marwick was quoted in the Timaru Herald saying that the Commission had received a number of complaints regarding investment schemes established by Kent. Kent was now banned from acting as an employee or agent of an investment advisor or broker in any way that would allow him to give investment advice or receive investment money or investment property from a member of the public. He was also not allowed to direct, promote or manage any investment advisor or broker company for 5 years. And the aim of this Act, this bill, the Financial Services Providers Pre-Implementation Adjustments Bill, is to ensure that incidents like this are eradicated from our financial services sector. You've heard that the Labor government passed the initial 2 pieces of legislation in 2008, knowing that further tidy-up legislation would be required so that work could proceed on the implementation of the financial service advisors regime as quickly as possible. The government was slow to introduce this bill. You've heard my colleague Honourable Leanne Dalzell refer to that earlier. That's really has been our only criticism of this bill, and which prolonged uncertainty for the financial services sector. And the bill as introduced didn't address all the issues identified by the stakeholders, which as a result the Commerce Committee has virtually had to rewrite it, and an enormous amount of good productive work by the committee has gone into that. There's a fundamental difference, Mr Speaker, between the groups of people who have lost money that they invested. There are savers and there are investors, and investors are those who have, or should have, knowledge of risk and who seek advice from different sources and make decisions after weighing up the odds. What they didn't assess as a risk was the negligent behaviour of people who had no knowledge, except that the more they sold, the better off they were, conflicted in the extreme. Savers, however, are the people who had their hard-earned dollars, who put their hard-earned dollars into the hands of people whom this bill is hoping to regulate and get the rotten eggs out of the sector. With their savings went their dreams of a retirement with dignity, retirement spent enjoying the fruits of their labour, only to see that reality cruelly taken away. And savers do not necessarily price risk like investors do. They pay others to assess the risk and expect competence, diligence and honesty. And as you've heard this morning, you expect that from an accountant, you expect it from a lawyer, you expect it from a doctor. Mostly you expect it from these people. And your dentist, why shouldn't you expect it from a financial advisor? And it's not too much to expect, and hopefully this bill will go a way to address that situation. Investors understand that risk equals return, whereas savers, the mums and dads, many of whom lost all their money in the financial sector, were not pricing risk. They were putting their money away ready for their retirement, for their children's education or their grandchildren's education. And this travesty has resulted in the increase in ill health and decrease in well-being of a huge cohort of New Zealanders. So, Mr Speaker, Labor did do something about it. We passed the Financial Advisors Act and the Financial Service Providers Registration and Dispute Resolution Act. And this bill makes adjustments which are machinery in nature, and there's an awful lot of them. But it doesn't make it any less important to protecting the most vulnerable in our society, and it's an extremely important bill. It's important for other reasons. One of the problems in this country, Mr Speaker, is that the do-it-yourself mentality to investment and savings. And many people think that they know best on how to make an optimal return on their savings without seeking advice from those who are expected to know the markets and the different investment options. And it was sort of a double bind in many ways, because I guess if you just did it yourself, well, then you'd be taking the risk yourself. But if you go and ask for financial advice from somebody who you think is reputable and then don't get it, then, you know, no wonder there is no confidence in the financial sector. And of course, it's not all financial advisors have acted in an unscrupulous manner, and not all of them were. And of course, those who were operating in an unscrupulous manner, not all of them were operating out of the back of a tin shed. There were many of them in the glass towers whose advice was as devious and self-serving as anywhere else. So this bill will, I hope, be another step in the process of rebuilding confidence of ordinary New Zealanders in the investment advice sector, because it is what's needed. And it's absolutely necessary, because it starts rebuilding the confidence of ordinary Kiwis in the financial advisory market, because they need to know that when they take their hard-earned money to a financial advisor, they're going to get independent, competent advice from a person who will walk them through all the risks and benefits in a transparent and meaningful way. And once again, I'd like to thank the Commerce Select Committee and all of the officials for the hard work that they've done on this bill.